Alright, so today we're going to be working on the Ames window. From the instruction sheet that you had seen, we talked about proportions. We had that gridded Ames window template to help you understand the relationship of the different sides and sizes. One of the things you need to think about when you're using your piece of paper is that it already has a perfect 90-degree angle at these corners. This was torn out of a sketchbook, so it has a little bit of a rough edge. But if you know that your ruler has a perfect 90-degree angle, this has a perfect 90-degree angle, then when you line these up, you are going to get a perfectly vertical line here. If you line it up this way, and the edge is flush, which means there's no variation between the angle of this paper and this ruler, then you'll get a perfectly horizontal line. So what we want to try to do is start with the left side, because we know that is our kind of our anchor, right? We said that was 10 squares tall, so proportionately whatever size that becomes is the same size that we'll have for our width. So from here, I'm lining up the side of my paper. I'm lining up. I'm going to do mine about 8 inches, because most standard sheets of paper are about 8.5 inches. I want to go a little bit shy of that. I've got a nice straight line. I centered a line on here a little bit earlier, so I had a little guideline, but if you measure 4 inches in, then that will be your midpoint, and you can line it up. That new line that you have will be your guideline to draw this new line horizontally, right? That vertical line will line up, and that will give you your horizontal line. Okay? So let me notice that I went a little bit off the vertical. So like I said, it's okay not to get it right the first time. Sometimes you'll have to do a second pass. And that's the one you'll start to make dark. When you start to feel a little more confident in the exactness of the line, then that's when you can make it dark. This one is going to be more of a guideline straight down the center, so I don't need that to be dark. So 4 inches straight across, flush. I'm sorry, 8 inches, because remember the left side was equal. Left side height was equal to the entire object's width, right? The trapezoid's width. You have to watch for that ruler not to slip. So when you hold it down, this is actually giving me very light pressure. The ruler is being held down with a decent amount of pressure. Centered over here, I want half the height of this, which was 8 originally. Now I want 4 inches. 4 inches divided by 2 means that you have just 2 inches on either side of this horizontal line that we created. That way it's centered also. So I centered the 2-inch mark here. I went to 0 to 2, that stops me there, and I go continue to 4, and now I have my right side. Now to make sure that all these line up and all the interior windows are going to line up, I need to use 1-point perspective. The problem is if I put a line here and I'm trying to find out where these 2 points meet, and that's the concept between 1-point perspective, is that if this were a road going into the distance, it would meet at a point somewhere up here. So I need to put something on there to continue. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to tape a piece of paper to the back. So I went ahead and put down a piece of paper and I taped this down. It doesn't need to be taped down, it could be glued down, it could be just held in place, but you need to make sure it doesn't slip. Now that I have this extra space to work, I can draw out this line. I can see where it continues. From point to point, it needs to be very precise. Where does it go? And eventually, I follow that line again. I line the lines up that I put out here. I continue that line out here to see where it goes. Same thing from this side. I go to the top, that top corner, make sure it's nicely lined up. Go to the top corner of the right side. Draw a line there, continue as far as I can go until it runs into the other line that came off the bottom edge of this trapezoid. So now where these cross, I have my vanishing point. That's where all of my lines will go to draw my windows.